Right, here's the challenge for everybody. Can you all think back to 1997 and think back to what it felt like after 18 years of Tory rule, and then Blair came in, and there was a certain sort of pleasure at having got rid of the Tories. But please think, what did Blair do? His first thing was to introduce university tuition fees, something that Thatcher would not have dared do. He brought in big business into key parts of our social structure, like the health service, with massive expansion of PFI. And of course, he's most famously known for engaging in dirty wars. Across continents, we are all still paying for Blair. Yet Blairism is the heart of Starmerism. And that is Thatcherism continued. I'm reminded of Orwell, where he said, if you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. And that is how I feel about the Starmer project. I just quickly want to say something about Starmer himself and his previous incarnation as DPP, because I think this is important to understanding Starmer. We know about the toolmaker, we know about the nurse, but Starmer was embraced by the establishment back in 2008 when he became Director of Public Prosecutions, and he was appointed by the Brown government. From 2010, he worked very closely with the coalition government. In particular, during that time, he took on the role of expanding the British CPS abroad, and essentially he became a British diplomat working for Cameron, promoting British soft power with judicial reform packages for governments across the world. He also made numerous visits to America and became a regular meter with Obama's Attorney General, who was called Eric Holder. And Holder actually guided Starmer on how to meet US counterterrorism objectives in Africa and the Middle East. Starmer worked with Holder on extraditions. In one case, which people probably know about, Theresa May had to stop the extradition of Gary McKinnon in 2012. She was Home Secretary because Starmer had said, no, you can have him, Holder. And May said it was incompatible with human rights. Boris Johnson, who was then the London mayor, said that the extradition of McKinnon would be extraordinarily cruel and inhumane. So just imagine you've got Theresa May and Boris Johnson being more humane and less in hock to America than Starmer was. When that happened, Starmer immediately flew to the States to meet with Holder and say to him he had nothing to do with the Home Office decision to square his pitch with the Americans. There's a whole litany of events of Starmer as DPP. He refused prosecution of police where deaths were involved. He did not investigate the extent of the spy cops. He was draconian over civil disobedience. And we know he played a very murky role in the case of Julian Assange. So in essence, since 2008, he played his role for the establishment at home and abroad. And for this, he earned his knighthood in 2014. And what I would say to people is, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I could go through a whole litany of abandoned Labour policies. I mean, they're coming daily, aren't they? You know, there's not a day goes by without some policy being abandoned. And Starmer's after market solutions to every problem of state neglect, just like the Tories. He's committed to maintaining the status quo, promoting privatisation, so on and so forth. On foreign policy, he's got unqualified support for the apartheid state, and he's got unqualified support for any war that the US wants to provoke across the globe. I'd say that Starmer is to the right of Cameron and Osborne. We saw from Labour files how corrupt the Labour Party is in its bureaucracy and some of its MPs. And I would say to people, look at the current selections, look at how they're being stitched up. And if Starmer gets these people into Parliament, these people are going to be in the Parliamentary Labour Party for the next 30 or 40 years, probably. So that's a long time to keep this grasp on power. And as I said in the film The Big Lie, Starmer is a very devious, deceitful, and dangerous man. We need to stop electing monsters. We need to stop Starmer.